Yemen's largest airport in the capital of Sanaa will reopen to UN aircraft, while the Red Sea port of Hodeida will be able to once again receive urgent humanitarian aid, the Saudiled coalition said on Wednesday. In a statement, coalition officials said that it would reopen the ports and airport to receive urgent humanitarian and relief materials starting midday on Thursday 0900 UTC. Read more. Opinion suffering in Yemen is on Saudi leaders' hands. Farhan Haq, deputy spokesman at the United Nations, also indicated that the blockade on Yemen's other major port, Saudiled, would also be lifted. UN officials welcomed the move, albeit cautiously, as it was not clear whether humanitarian missions into Yemen would be allowed to return to pre-blockade levels. The reintroduction of commercial traffic to Yemen's ports was also uncertain. "We're monitoring these developments," Haq told reporters in New York. "If that were to happen, that would be a very welcome and critically important development. We made clear the tremendous amount of needs on the ground. Blockade on Yemen could lead to largest famine in decades." The UN warned that millions of people in Yemen were at immediate risk by the blockade on food aid and fuel. Some 7 million people are estimated to rely on food aid and 4 million on fuel needed for pumping clean water. Shortly after the closure, UN aid chief Mark Lowcock warned that the blockade could spark the largest famine the world has seen for many decades, with millions of victims. Aid group Save the Children welcomed the coalition's announcement but warned that it was nowhere near enough to avert a potential famine in Yemen. Read more. Yemen's war explained in 4 key points. Humanitarian relief only provides a small portion of the essential goods needed in Yemen. Commercial supplies are critical to feed the population and keep basic services running, it said. The UN has identified conflict as the root cause of Yemen's crises. More than 10,000 people have been killed since the conflict erupted in 2014 when Shiite Houthi rebels launched a campaign to capture the capital, Sanaa. In March 2015, a Saudiled coalition launched a deadly campaign against the rebels, one that has been widely criticized by human rights groups for its high civilian death toll. The conflict has prevented humanitarian aid from reaching large parts of the civilian population, resulting in 60% of the country's 28 million people being classified as food insecure. At least 2.2 million children are acutely malnourished, according to the UN World Food Programme. UN Chief Antonio Guterres has urged the Security Council to pressure warring parties to allow aid in. More than 2 million people have been displaced by conflict, including marginalized communities such as the Mohammedan, a minority tribe that originally migrated from Africa. Despite the civil war, many flee conflict in Somalia and head to Yemen, marking the convergence of 2 major migration crises in the Middle East nation. Yemen hosts more than 255,000 Somali refugees, according to UNHCR. In October, the number of suspected cholera cases exceeded more than 750,000, the WHO said. At least 2,135 people have died from the waterborne bacterial infection in Yemen this year. Although cholera can be easily treated, if left untreated, it can kill within hours. The International Committee of the Red Cross has warned that cholera cases could hit 1 million before the end of the year. In Yemen, violence goes beyond civil conflict. It is considered a strategic front in the war on terrorism. The country serves as the operational base for al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, dubbed the most dangerous terrorist group before the rise of the Islamic State. The U.S. routinely uses drones to target al-Qaeda leadership. However, civilians have often been killed in the operations. In a country paralyzed by conflict, children are one of the most at-risk groups in Yemen. More than 11 million children require humanitarian aid, according to the UN Humanitarian Coordination Agency. The country's education system is on the brink of collapse while children are dying of preventable causes like malnutrition, diarrhea and respiratory tract infections, the agency said in October. Despite several attempts at unbacked peace talks, the conflict continues to rage on. Saudi Arabia has vowed to continue supporting the internationally recognized government of Yemeni President Abed Rabbo Mansour Hadi. On the other hand, Houthi rebels have demanded the formation of a unity government in order to move forward on a political solution. But neither side appears ready to compromise. Author Lewis Sanders IV. Widespread suffering. The Saudiled coalition imposed the blockade on Yemen in response to a missile assault targeting the Saudi capital of Riyadh. The missile was shot down, but it was the farthest a projectile fired by Yemen's Shiite rebels, also known as the Houthis, had traveled into the kingdom. In response, the coalition ordered all ships to leave the ports at Hodeida and Saudiled. The 2 ports have served as the only lifeline for northern Yemen, where most of the country's 27 million people live. Read more. Yemen UN approves plan to investigate war crimes. Saudi Arabia said the move was intended to stop the flow of arms to the Houthis from Iran, although Iran has denied supplying weapons to the rebel forces. The Saudiled coalition has laid siege to Yemen since Houthi rebels seized parts of the country in 2015. The rebels' capture of the capital Sanaa forced Saudi-allied President Abdrabbuh Mansur Hadi to flee. Almost 9,000 people have since been killed, but millions face the risk of a deadly cholera epidemic and stand on the brink of famine. DMSEAP, Reuters, AFP, DPA.